free agents.
Welcome to BK Nothing But Nets. I'm joined again. Oh, shoot. Hang on one second. I streamed this to the wrong Twitter account. Hang on one second.
Happens to the best of us, man.
All right.
It's Wednesday. It's middle of the week, you know?
Yeah, that's the excuse. It's Wednesday.
Yeah,
it's Wednesday.
Whatever.
All right. We're back. BK Nothing But Nets. We got an interesting show today. We're going to look at the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possibilities. We should be drafting one of these guys, you would think. And we're going to try to construct a roster on what it may look like to have that particular guy, that particular player on the team. We were live yesterday. We did a mock draft. We ended up with Jeremiah Fears,
Again.
Carter Bryant, Rashard Fleming, and Joan Berenger from France. Is what we ended up with in the first round. Your thoughts real quick on that draft, and then we'll get started with this.
Yeah, first and foremost, always good to be on. I finally finished up that article. It took me 2 days, but was able to work around going to the Yankees game last night, working late last night on the article. So that is up. It is my top 30 NBA draft prospects specifically for the Brooklyn Nets in terms of upside fit and potential draft position. So if you guys want to take a look at that, I'll drop a link below in the comments. But going on about the players that we selected, it was Fears, Fleming, Beringer, and who?
Rashard Fleming.
Yeah, Fleming, Fears, Beringer. Who was the fourth? I want to say it was at pick 22 when we traded up.
It was Carter. We got Carter Bryant.
Bryant at 19. Yeah. Fleming at 22. Yeah.
It was Spears, Bryant, Fleming, and Berenger.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the first 3 picks to me are incredible. I think those are very, very good fits. I think you have a solidified potential star in Fears. I think you have an incredibly high upside potential third option in Carter Bryant. I think you have one of the top tier 3-and-D role players at the wing position in Rasheed Fleming. Reminds me a lot of Naz Reid. The only pick that I don't like out of that is Beringer. But again, if they are looking to add center depth, if he's the best available on the board, you take him. Personally, to me, though, I am not a fan of him. I actually was looking at his stats. I'm going to pull it up here real quick. His base stats are not very good. He only played 18 minutes a game roughly this season. In his per 36, though, if my Wi-Fi would ever like to work, which would be wonderful, his per 36 is, I believe it was around 9.7 points a game. Let's see. Yeah, 9.5 points, 9.3 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks per game. That's his per 36. So if he was to play 36 minutes a night, that's what the stats could potentially look like. And that, to me, is just a smaller Nick Claxton. Like, he can't shoot the 3. He's 6'9", so he's a 1-2 inch smaller version of Claxton. And he also can't really put up an actual double-double. Like, to me, the upside on Beringer and the hype that he's built in terms of his rising draft stock, to me, is unwarranted. I'm not really sure why he is. I'm not sure maybe if I'm missing something while watching his film.
Well, let me ask you a question, though. Is this just there aren't any bigs left and he's the next big on the board? Or does, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just no other big better than him, so he's going to go prematurely?
Yeah, it really depends on what
like
Brooklyn
the
is looking
center,
at, right?
Obviously they're very
Creighton
different players.
Center. Yeah,
the Creighton
to
center.
me, Maxime Reynaud and Ryan Kalkbrenner are better centers than Beringer is. But again, it depends on what Brooklyn's looking at, right? Kalkbrenner and Reynaud are seniors, so they're 4-year guys. Not much room for development in the NBA. It's more so plug in, see how they do, likely backups. Beringer, though, at 19 years old, has the upside to where you can develop him for 2-3 years and see if he becomes something better. So it really just depends on what Brooklyn's looking to do in that department, right? Do they want a guy who is NBA ready now to play as the backup to a guy like Claxton? Do they want to find a guy with upside to where they can move on from a guy like Day'Ron Sharpe or Nick Claxton to potentially develop? It really depends on, and Ken's right. Johni Broome is another guy who I would definitely take over Joan Beringer. But again, I based it on realistic draft pick range. Beringer is a guy who's being projected between picks 20 and 26 currently. I believe we got him at 26 or 27. So fairly within the range of what I'm projecting him at. But overall, that's probably the only pick that I would not be happy with.
All right. You want to get started?
Yeah.
Cooper's the obvious number one. We've taken Fears in the last 3 drafts. Who do you want to start with? Cooper Flag? How we would construct our roster? Oh, first, it was a question for you. I'm assuming it's for you because I'm in Texas. Ken Young wants to know. Oh, he says, are y'all going to be at the draft lottery watch party next week at the Barclays? I will not because I'm in Texas.
Yeah, as of right now, I am not. We'll see how things work out, how plans work out, but I will likely be on here with Gary crying or screaming with tears of joy, depending on where our selection is. So we'll likely be doing an episode that day based on what we've discussed behind closed doors. So, I mean, we can set it up now too if you want, just to have everybody ready. I think the draft lottery is at 7, maybe going live at 6:30 to break down the percentages, the chances of potentially moving up, the guys within that range, and then watching it live, seeing what happens.
Is it so? It's linked with the game, right? So is it at halftime of the game, or is it before the game starts, or how are they doing it?
I believe it's at 7 o'clock on ESPN. I think it's a separate, like off, not on a channel that a game's on. I believe TNT is hosting the games on Monday, so I believe the lottery should be separate on ESPN.
Okay, I'm going to invite a couple people on. Other people too. And Alex had a question about your Beringer comp. Jericho Sims. It could be. Look, again, it's the 20-something pick in the draft. If you took Jericho Sims at 27, it's not the end of the world. Is that a fair comp? Do you think there's a Jericho Sims comp there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jericho Sims sucks. No offense, but he is just not
Doc loves
really.
Him. Doc loves him.
Not a great player whatsoever. Like he's got extreme athleticism to help with offensive rebounding, but outside of that, can't score to save his life. Isn't really the greatest defender if he's not blocking shots. So yeah, I mean, Beringer could be like a smaller Claxton ceiling with a floor of Jericho Sims. That could be a very realistic comp in terms of what his potential development could look like.
Jericho Sims is not a good player, and that's why he couldn't crack the rotation much with the Knicks when everyone was healthy, and they went with 6'8" Precious Achiuwa as a backup center instead of him. I get it, but there's some athleticism too. If I got an 18, Jericho Sims played for the Longhorns, so I watched him a lot. Yeah. If I got Jericho Sims an inch or two taller at 18 years old, I could develop him, right? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a ceiling there. If I can get him a one-handed push shot, like Isaiah Hartenstein, if I could develop something like that, a little baby hook shot, something like that. Like there's upside there because of his athleticism. So at 18, if I said he could be Sims with a couple of offensive moves, that's not a bad backup center, right? I mean,
no, not at all.
I don't know much about Beringer, but if he's that kind of athlete, it might be worth taking him there, unless you really believe in one of the big white guys from Stanford or Creighton, right? Yeah. What do you think the upsides are on those two guys? Like
backup big men. You know, guys who like at best Jakob Poeltl like players, like where they could start, but like you're not your first, second, third, or fourth option. You know, you're just a reliable big man, and I think that that's something valuable. It's just, again, I'm very big on, and so is the NBA, on drafting youth because you have more room for development to maybe find those untapped skills that haven't been unlocked yet, that where you can reach new levels with the player. In terms of their development. So for me, I'm always more on the side of drafting freshmen, 18, 19-year-olds who have, 2-3 years of a window where you can really develop them properly and and get them to the level of their highest potential, rather than bringing in guys who have played 4 years in college, have learned a system for 4 years, are kind of set in their ways in terms of how they play. They know their role. Like, seniors aren't really guys who come into the league and are, going to become stars. There's really no such thing as a senior really doing that. So for me, I would stick with more freshmen, which is why I like the pick for either one of Rasheer Fleming, Ado Thiaro, like those. Like, I agree with taking one upperclassman and bringing in three youthful players with high upside.
I want to address this comment from Alex. I feel it's a decent question. If we got Flag, does that steer us away from high usage point guards like Filan? Feels like Filan is a weird but better fit.
To me, Filan is not a high usage point guard.
No, that's what he's saying. He's saying would it steer us away and towards a guy like Filan, if I understand the question correctly, right?
To me, it's interesting, right? Because if you're getting Flag, you have to think one of two things, right? Either one, they're going for a star in the offseason to try and really optimize the potential of Cooper Flag in his first season, or two, moving up in the draft for another high upside player to put alongside him. I've said this before. I'm a Duke fan. I've watched every Duke game this past season. I absolutely love Cooper Flag and what he's done at Duke. He's by far, I would probably put him as the best freshman Duke player. I'd put him over Zion, in all honesty.
Stop.
I'm dead serious. The defensive upside on him. He is the best defensive freshman I have ever seen in my life. He is probably the best defensive freshman since Kawhi Leonard. He has a maturity to his game that Zion still doesn't even have today. He is a work ethic alcoholic. Like, the dude just constantly is putting in work to improve his game.
So is Zion, though. Zion's a workaholic.
Well, yeah, he's putting in work at the local McDonald's and and the Dollar General grabbing Doritos. But and again, I love Zion. Like, I hate having to talk like this about him, but the man has just proven me wrong in so many debates with people over time that I can't defend it anymore. He's not good at doing his job. Like, he's the guy that works the 9 to 5 and shows up at 9:05 and leaves at 4:30. Like, Cooper Flag shows up at 8:30 and leaves at 5:15. Like, he gets the overtime, but he also does his job very, very efficiently. And to me, when you're looking at their all-around game, Flag is by far the better freshman player at Duke. So to me, Flag is probably the best freshman in Duke history since probably Grant Hill. Like, that was before my time. So, that's
Grant Hill was on that loaded team. So Grant Hill didn't really shine as a freshman, but you could tell he was different. Mm-hmm. That was like my very early memories of college basketball. That team was like this team. It was so stacked with NBA players. I mean, it was loaded. You got guys like Cherokee Parks and stuff. It was just loaded. So he didn't really become the dude until after Leitner left.
Yeah.
But you could tell, like, okay. Because he stayed there for 3 years, right?
2 or 3 years, yeah.
I think 3.
Yeah, because back then in college, you were staying at least 2. Yeah.
They had a guy named Thomas Hill, too, who I don't ever think made it in the NBA, but Thomas Hill was sensational. So that was like that. I guess it was his freshman year when they had Hurley, Leitner, Thomas Hill, and Grant Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Hill is the one who was crying when Christian Leitner hits the shot.
Yeah,
that guy was nasty too. That was a sick team. That was one of the best teams I can remember. But yeah, Grant Hill didn't shine like that as a freshman because they had Leitner, but you could tell, like, Hill, who I think if he would have stayed healthy would have changed the game. He was the first guy, 6'7", 6'8", whatever he was, that could handle the ball like a point guard, beat you off the dribble, right? He couldn't shoot yet, but he was something different. He was the first guy really, because normally the guys at that time who had the crossover, who had the dribble package were, Tim Hardaway, Kenny Anderson. They were 6'1". He was the first guy, 6'8", to do that. Forward, point forward, 3 guard, whatever you want to call him. He used to cook Michael and Scotty. Like, when people, like, it's not just the crossover, but he would play Pippen 5 times a year and school him 5 times a year. Like, there was no question who was the better 3, Grant Hill or Pippen. It was Grant Hill, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
But the injuries eventually got him.
No, definitely. Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. I think the first thing that we kind of have to figure out, though, when we're doing this topic that we've decided to do today is, what does the rest of the draft look like around a guy like Cooper Flag?
Let's go,
Right.
Cooper.
So if I'm just going to look at Tankathon, right? We're not going to do full blown like mock drafts and stuff because it's going to take too long. But I'm already kind of writing out a plan around Flag. It would just really depend on what you get elsewhere, right? So let's just say there's no trades. Let's just say the Nets pick at 19. I'm going to say 26 and 36. We're going to just say the 27th pick is traded in all of these scenarios, right? For future picks. So at 1, you get Flag. At 19, I'll let you pick. Do you go with Nolan Traore, Thomas Sorber, Ben Saraf, or Rasheer Fleming?
To me, Fleming is the guy with the highest upsides. He's the best player there.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is gonna matter how they value Noah Clowney and Nick Claxton.
And it also depends on what you do in this offseason. Because just to give you a quick little sneak peek of what I've already put down. If you're just looking at Flag on the roster, right? I'm bringing back Cam Thomas. I'm bringing back Zaire Williams. I'm letting Day'Ron Sharpe walk. I'm trading Nick Claxton to the Lakers for the Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber package, right? I'm bringing in Naz Reid. So I think that kind of puts away the idea of potentially going after Rasheer Fleming. And then I'm bringing back Keon Johnson. I'm trying to find a way because if you're looking at what you've just brought in, right, you have Zaire, you bring in Cooper Flag, you have Maxi Kleber, you have Naz Reid, right? So you have a lot of wing depth. Do you look to do a sign and trade for Kuminga with Cam Johnson? Like that's where I'm at next.
Well, if I'm bringing, what position is Kuminga playing?
Kuminga's likely playing the 3, Thomas at the 2.
And then Cooper Flag at the 4?
Cooper Flag at the 4, Naz at the 5. Right? So you kind of have to think, are you going point guard here at 19?
I would guess so. And then so that's Troy or Filan.
So probably Traore or Ben Saraf, I would say. I think those are the two guys at 19 that hold value. And
I don't know Saraf's game.
Yeah. Saraf,
he's not a shooter, right? Like he's not a shooter.
He can shoot fairly well. I mean, I can pull up his stats right here. He's putting up 12.2 points, 4.3 assists. He's shooting 45.5% from the field, 29% from 3. So room for improvement, definitely not great. Per 36 is, and that's in 23.5 minutes, by the way, the stats that I just read off. His per 36 is 19 points, 6.6 assists. His advanced stats shows that he should probably be about a 34% three-point shooter in the NBA. So again, improvement, not horrible, not great though. If you're looking at Traore though, you're looking at a guy who, I'm on Wi-Fi, who's putting up in 23 minutes a night. He's putting up 12 points on 41% from the field, 31.5 from 3. He's also putting up 5 assists. His per 36 is 19 points, 7.5 assists, and his advanced shooting metrics are 35.4% from 3, potentially in the NBA. So a bit better efficiency, higher upside as a playmaker potentially. I don't hate the fit for Traore at 19 if he's available.
I mean, to me, that would be the pick. Then we would have Troy at 19, then 26, and then we're trading 27.
Yeah, because if you also look at how, if you look at how Traore plays, right, and if you also look at how the Nets draft, you're talking about a guy who was projected top 5 before college basketball season, who dropped off.
Yeah,
and you know that Marks loves to take guys with stories, right? Whether it's injury history that he looks to rehab and turned into greatness, which he kind of fails to do a lot. So maybe he goes the different approach, right? Maybe he takes the guy who was projected very high, who had an off season, but still has the upside to be that potential top 5 caliber player in this draft class. So I think Traore is a great fit next to Cooper Flag. He's 6'4", a hell of a playmaker, very, very solid defensively for his position. And the efficiencies and scoring is something that are a bit inconsistent, but could definitely improve under a guy like Jordi Fernandez. So, I mean, if I'm there at 19 and you get Flag, I'm going Traore.
No, I tend to agree with that. What would that do with the status of the team? You want to put Kuminga on this team to me, if we get Cooper Flag, I'm now all in on Zion Williamson. And my rebuild is kind of complete. Like I still have my pick next year, which will probably be an okay pick, but I'm no longer gunning for a top 3 pick next year. Like that changed my calculus if I got Cooper Flag. So if I get Cooper Flag, that's my 3. I'm going all in to try to get Zion as my 4.
Okay.
And then,
I mean, the question is, right? If you're moving Claxton to the Lakers, you're already down a center. You're able to replace that center with Naz Reid. So you would have to think
Naz Reid, and then
and then maybe bring back Day'Ron, because I don't think Sorber's there at 26. Maybe do you bring Sharp back on a 2-year team option deal, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to cost me a whole lot of money.
All right, so we'll do that. So as of right now, we have Day'Ron, Sharp, Zaire, Cam Thomas coming back. Do we maybe take out Zaire? Because we still have Cam Johnson on the roster. Do we trade him? Do we keep him?
Yeah, I'm trying. I definitely. Well,
because we're getting to a point where we have too many wings, and at 26 and 36, you'd have to think they're going wing.
I don't want to use Zion as my 5 because I hate that as an idea because he's 6'6".
Right? Yeah, I wouldn't even look to do that in this scenario because I think it takes away from allowing Flag to develop his game as well. Like Zion's a paint presence, right? He's not a guy that's really going to be spacing the floor, but Flag works his best when he is at the elbow in the post, being able to put the ball on the floor, whether that's to create space for a mid-range shot or to use his first step to advance past the defender and finish at the rim. So I think that kind of clogs the paint too much if you bring in Zion. So to me, I would stay away from that scenario if you're adding Flag, because I think Flag's the superstar in this. I don't think bringing in a guy that could potentially, lower or at least take more time for Flag to develop, I don't think it's probably in the best interest of him to look into that direction.
Well,
so it really depends.
Cooper Flag would be the superstar moving forward, but day one, Zion, because Cooper Flag's going to be 18, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Day one, Cooper Flag is Zion's my superstar, and Cooper is my superstar in training.
Yeah.
But
see, the only problem is if you do the Claxton trade with the Lakers, what do you have to give up for Zion? Right? Because they need a center. They already have wings, so they're not looking Cam Johnson.
Thomas.
Yeah. And at that point, okay, so now who's your 2?
I'll address that bridge. It's easy to replace 2s in the NBA. There are plenty of guards who can score. I can look to address that. What Zion Williamson on the cheap doesn't come around often. Cooper Flag doesn't come around often. I love Cam Thomas. I don't want Cam Thomas to go, but he's not that difficult to replace.
See, but the problem is we're also valuing Williamson very low, but we don't know what New Orleans is asking for, right? Like what's low to you?
I was gonna say Cam Thomas and 2 1s.
See, I think it's more so Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharp, and 3 1s, because I don't think Thomas holds that value. And I think at that point, you're signing and trading 2 guys for a guy who is making $35-36 million a year. So he's already going to be eating up at a ton of cap space, not to mention the injury history. And not to mention you're bringing in a guy who his top 2 components aren't floor spacing, right? Flag isn't known to be an incredible 3-point shooter. He can shoot it. He can shoot it with efficiency.
I would keep my eye on that because Kawhi Leonard came into the league and kind of shot the way that Cooper Flag shots. Okay, he can hit them. That's not really his thing. Now he's a lethal 3-point. I would keep my eye on Cooper Flag as a shooter.
I mean, he shot 38.5%.
That's what I'm saying.
He shot efficiently. He did very well.
Yeah, and if you look at it, his progression, he's had to shoot better than that later in the season, right? He had to improve on that. So what was he shooting late in the season? He's probably shooting over 40% because early on it looked like he couldn't shoot much. Yeah. And that was my biggest question mark on him. And then you said he shot 38% from 3. I said, well, that's more than good enough.
Yeah.
Especially now. So now if he can shoot, that changes things. So he's already improved his shooting, I would imagine, as the season progressed. I would keep my eye on him as the development of him as a shooter.
Okay. So here's a little update that I made. I took out Zaire Williams because it seems like the wing depth is going to be a bit of an issue. if you bring in Flag and an additional wing through the draft while not knowing what you can do with Cam Johnson just yet. So what I have us doing is bring back Cam Thomas, bring back Keon Johnson, bring back Day'Ron Sharpe. Those are your three guys that you end up bringing back, right? You bring in Flag, you bring in Traore. We'll have to figure out the other two picks. You trade Claxton, you get Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber. So right now, we're there. Does Brooklyn look to bring in a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker to be the backup two to Cam Thomas? Right, 6'5", can play the two, can play the three. Very, very good defender. Can space the floor and hit the three. Wasn't very efficient this year, but still some upside as a depth piece. I mean, do you look to bring in the two Minnesota guys through free agency to fill out some depth?
I mean, that's always going to depend on how much, right? Like they're Alexander
I
Walker.
think you can get. I mean, he's currently making $4.5 million. I would think you can get him for under 10. Right, Nas, you're looking at if he opts out of his player option, which he is rumored to do so. You're looking at a guy who's currently making $13.9 million, roughly 14. So you would have to think he's getting at least a double and a half pay raise, right? So you're looking at 20 to 23 million now for him potentially, which I'm fully open to. So like if you're looking at it, right,
money, but like it's not like when you look at the
I
landscape
mean,
of the NBA,
it's a starting
not
big
a ton
man.
of money anymore.
Yeah, it's a starting big. I mean, you're paying Claxton $25 million. If you get Nas for 23, you're looking at a $2 million save. So it's really not horrible on paper looking at that contract. And also when you look at the contract that he could get to in comparison to what his performance could look like to that contract, right? Claxton was making 25 million and advanced stats show that he was playing like a player who was making 400,000. Like that's horrible. He was one of the worst contract players in terms of performance value, alongside Jaylen Brown, who is making 63 million, but advanced stats show that he was playing like a guy who's making 18.5 million. So it's like when you're looking at that, does Naz Reid at 23 million really hurt you? That he can put up 14, 15 a game. He can space the floor. He can defend. He can protect the rim. He can play the perimeter. Like he's got an all around game to him at the big man spot, though undersized. I mean, he's only like 6'9". When you have the defensive versatility of a guy like Flag, maybe next to Cam Johnson and Naz Reid, that's definitely something that is a bit of an improvement.
I like the idea of having Reid and Cooper Flag together.
Yeah.
I know it's a little undersized if you're using it as your 4-5, but what if it's your 3-5 and you draft Fleming later in the draft, right? Like, I mean, I know
I don't think he's available at 26. That's the only problem.
No, I'm saying at 19. I know you guys want to go point guard at 19, which is fine.
Mm.
But if Fleming is Fleming available at 19?
I mean, it's 50-50 right now. I mean, he could go as high as 15, right?
Okay.
He could go. Yeah. I mean, you're really looking at a rough stretch for Brooklyn if you are a
this
Fleming
is where
lover.
I want to trade Cam Johnson to the Spurs and then take Fleming. I still don't have a point guard.
So you would take Fleming as high as 14.
Yeah, if I could get Fleming at 14, I would try to take Filan at 26.
Yeah. Well, no, because and I can definitely see that because realistically, you have San Antonio at 14. They could definitely take Fleming. You have OKC at 15. They 1,000% could take Fleming, even though I think they're going to still side more with a guy like Nick Clifford or Danny Wolf. You have Orlando at 16. Rasheer Fleming is a perfect fit for what they need. They need floor spacing like there's no tomorrow, and it really doesn't matter at which position. But at the end of the day, if Jace Richardson is available there at 16, I don't see them taking Fleming over Richardson. And that now leaves you with who's at 17? It's Minnesota. If you're stealing Naz Reid from them, what makes you think they're not selecting him, right? So now you got.
I mean, they wouldn't have known that by the draft. They wouldn't know if we have.
You would have to think, though, if Minnesota's there at 17 and they take Fleming, that's the clear indication that Naz is likely opting out and leaving, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where it stands. And then that kind of puts you at Washington. I don't see Washington taking Fleming. So if Fleming can fall to 19, 1,000% I agree. You should look to take him. If not, try and trade, 26 and 36 to move up to 20 so you can have back-to-back picks. But it really depends on where Fleming stands. Like I wouldn't personally especially if you draft Flag, I wouldn't go out of my way to trade Johnson to move up to grab him, just because I think Flag is going to be utilized best as a 4 in the NBA once his body fully develops. You saw Paolo, you saw Tatum. These are all guys who were very lengthy in college, not as much muscle build as they have in the NBA. They all started off as small forwards, have transitioned to power forwards. I think Flag's going to be very, very similar in that aspect, where he'll start, the first 2 years of his career at the 3, but he's going to move his way to the 4, where he's going to be a bit more dominant, put on more size, have a better all-around game. So I'm basing it more so on him playing the 4 rather than the 3. And I think Fleming's the guy that's stuck at the 4.
Well, Fleming's obviously, I mean, that's what he is. He's a 4, right? I mean, he can't play the 3 and he can't play the 5. He's a 4.
I mean, I wouldn't take away him playing the 5. He's got a 7'5" wingspan. Like, he can play down low with guys like that. And he does bring a physicality to his game that is interesting. So it's like,
well, Marks likes to go small. Could he use Flag, Clowney, and Fleming as his front court?
It's definitely not something that I'm opposed to. I think it's very interesting because you're bringing in 2 6'9" guys who all play with physicality, have a length, have athleticism, and can all space the floor. Like, that's definitely intriguing to have all in one. It's just, again, are you comfortable with the upside of LeBaron Filan over Nolan Traore? And to me, I look at Filan as like a Derek White caliber guard, where at his best, but where he's a very good defensive guard. He can space the floor a bit. The percentages need work, but I don't know if his upside reaches what Traore's could, right? Because again, when you're looking at it, you're talking about 2 players who, one was previously projected top 5 with top 5 talent, who fell due to performance. And you're also looking at another guy who was projected early second round, who slightly moved up and could potentially be a end of first round prospect. So it's like, when you're looking at the upsides of both throughout the past year, Traore still has the highest upside of the 2. So it's really based on what you feel is more.
Here's my question, right? Here's how I'm looking at it. Would you rather have Fleming at 19 and Filan at 26, or Traore at 19 and then Baranga or Broom or another big at 26? Like, what's a better scenario for you?
I mean, looking at the board, if you're moving pick 27 and you're keeping 36, if you go Flag and Traore at 1 and 19, that puts you in a position where you can grab a guy like Alex Condon at 36, the Florida center. He's a sophomore. You have Kalkbrenner. You have Raynaud. You have Janai Broom. Broom you could potentially take at 26 if you feel it's needed. There are other center options out there. And realistically, if you're not trading up like we did in our previous scenario, I could see a team like Atlanta or Indiana selecting Beringer over Brooklyn. They have picks 22 and 23. We would be at 26. So I could see him being off the board by then. So again, it's difficult because I do see Brooklyn trading up. I don't see why they wouldn't, which kind of solves this issue that we're running into. But I think if you're going Flag, you got to grab a great point guard. And I think the best point guard on the board would be Traore at 19. You kind of just have to figure out the rest from there, because you also have to remember, trading Claxton, bringing back Sharp, signing Reed, you have 2 centers.
Well, right? Here's an idea you're going to hate, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, and then you can trash all over it. What about keeping D'Lo? If we get Cooper Flag,
I'd rather die in a fire. At that point, at pick 36, if Boogie Fland's available, take him. Like that's how I kind of look at it. If Filan or Fland is available at 36, by all means take him, because at that point you're just drafting for upside. To me at 26, I'm looking at guys like Will Riley, like Yaxel Lendeborg, Janai Broom, Noah Penda, Bogoljub Markovic. Like, those are the guys that I'm looking at. Maybe even Ado Thiaro if you want to add a veteran presence. So to me, like at 36, you can grab one of Filan or Boogie Flam, I think personally, but it depends on how the board falls.
I wanna move on to the point guards.
Mm-hmm.
Harper or Fears. If we've got one of these guys, Harper or Fears, would it change? Would you construct the roster differently, or would you construct the roster the same with Harper or Fears? Yeah, Harper is better, but it's not going to. I'm going to construct the roster in the same fashion, or would it be fundamentally different?
I think it
Depending on which
would
one
be
you got.
different. I think it would be very different because you're now looking at two very, very different point guards, right? You have one guy who can do it all at 6'6", who already brings versatility to your team, who is a better playmaker than Fears is, who has the same level, if not slightly better, scoring ability than Fears does. And then you have Fears, who is 6'4", brings athleticism. He's a streaky shooter. You're probably going to want to add better shooting players around him, maybe a little bit more height and versatility around him to, kind of cancel out the duo of him and Cam Thomas only being 6'4" guards with, not the greatest defense in the world. So it really depends. I think if you're grabbing Harper, you're putting more shooters around him. It doesn't really, specific like let's just say in the scenario that you get him, you're keeping Claxton, right? That's when I look at Fleming.
Is Claxton really a pick and roll center though? Like I know that's the best so you're saying if we get Harper, you want to keep Claxton?
I wouldn't say that I
I
want to keep
understand the reasoning
Claxton.
for
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I want to keep Claxton. It's just I would want to see if he can build up his value next season, right? Because you're looking at a guy who's making $23.5 million next year, who is a starting big man in this league and who can be one of the brighter spots on the defensive end for any franchise. If he can build up his value on the offensive end to where Brooklyn can gain an additional first round pick out of a trade, why not? Like to me, his value is already set. It's 2 expiring contracts and a first round pick. But can you get his value to a young player, an expiring contract, and 2 first-round picks? Because realistically, you are trading for a starting center. Like, how much are you willing to give up for a starting center? And especially teams like the Lakers,
I'm
who,
already absorbing his contract, right? Me absorbing
yeah,
his because no matter like what, we all know he's overpaid. The league knows he's
yeah,
overpaid. So like, I'm gonna give you back lesser value because I'm absorbing this contract.
yeah. No, I agree. It's not a pretty contract to look at. That is for sure. But it's also something that contending teams likely value a bit more than what we as fans and the Nets
Yeah,
likely can value him.
that's true.
So it
Like
really
when we were
depends on how they
contending,
see it.
he was more valuable than he is now, right? I mean, just personalize it, right? When we were good, he
Yeah.
had value. When he was playing with Harden and he was playing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, he had value. When he's playing with Keon Johnson and there's no personnel there, he's not valuable at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, um, I wanted to see Claxton improve year after year, and he does not seem to get to where I would want him to be. I mean, we all thought that he would be taking like 4 threes a game and hitting at least one. He doesn't do that. He does that like, once a
Yeah, when
weather
he hits a
season. It's
three,
like,
it stopped the presses. He hit a three.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the Pat Beverly meme where he's jumping up on the table after winning the play-in game and just tossing his jersey in the stands and he's crying like that's how I feel every time Claxton hits a three. It's like
Yeah,
we
it's
just
when the
solved world
big
hunger.
fat offensive lineman scoops and scores a touchdown. Like go crazy because it's never going to happen again, right? Like that's the
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it's to me, if you grab Harper, you're likely keeping Claxton for at least half the season. Which to me, then you look to move Cam Johnson, right? Because I think your next move is okay. Are we bringing back Sharp, or do we want to bring in a backup big at that 19 spot? Right? Let's say Carter Bryant is available at 19. Do you take Carter Bryant or do you take Thomas Sorber in that instance? Knowing that you can match a contract for Sharp, I would think you go in the direction of Bryant
I would
because
do that
that
too.
allows you to have 2 bigs in Claxton and Sharp to at least start the season. Even if you don't bring back Sharp, you can look to bring in a guy like Naz Reid and look to move off of Claxton or vice versa.
Guys like Zaire and Sharp, to me, give you some versatility because those are
Yeah.
NBA players that they fit in the NBA rotation. You can have those guys that are still fairly young.
Mhm.
So now, like, if it's, I can go more best player available than just positional need, right? To me, Carter Bryant, and I like Sorber, and we may miss out on him if Carter Bryant's available, but Carter Bryant is the better basketball player with the higher upside. So I'm going to draft Carter Bryant and then just keep Day'Ron.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think it would be beneficial to grab a guy with upside like Bryant if you're adding Harper. Because again, at 6'8", 225, he's 18, 19 years old, and he already has an NBA ready build. Like, this is a guy who's going to be very, very dangerous once developed. Um, if he's your backup three behind guys like Zaire and Johnson next year, that's room to grow off the bench with that second unit to see what his upside could be. So I definitely don't hate taking Bryant over Sorber in that instance if you have Harper and if you're keeping Claxton. But that kind of puts you in a position where, okay, now do you trade up for a guy like Will Riley to potentially move on from Cam Johnson? Or are you now looking at that big man spot? And if so, are you trying to aggressively trade up for a guy like Sorber who could potentially be there at 20 or 21?
Can we address this? I want to go back just real quick to Flag. I didn't see this. Fleming and Filan fit the play style of Flag better than me. If we get Flag, is that what we try to do with the rest of the draft? Is Fleming and Filan? Because it makes sense.
It's definitely not a horrible idea, but I also think when you're looking at play style, right? Play style specifically, when you have multiple guys who have similar play styles, that actually hurts your team, right? The whole point of building a team is you want to have like three different components of your team. You want your big man who can stretch the floor and defend. You want your wings who can space the floor. Maybe one that can create his own shot. Maybe one that's a bit better defensively. Maybe one that's a bit more physical. Maybe one that's a bit better with ball handling. Like you want to have separate components to your team. You don't want to have just all the same guys who are mediocre shooters, but really good defensively and finishers at the rim, right? Because that kind of takes away from the individual aspects to the games that kind of give you that chemistry and different options in terms of what you do on both ends of the floor. If you have 3 or 4 guys on a team that do the same exact thing, you're kind of easily able to game plan around them, right? So to me, it's about versatility. It's about having different components of the game all on one court at the same time, right? The biggest problem for KD, Kyrie, and Harden, not only health, but they were all the same caliber of player. They all look to score, right? And there is only one basketball. And even though it worked for that 16-game sample size, it didn't work come playoff time when they were all injured, and the following season when they shot themselves in the foot and lost in the first round of the Celtics, right? When you saw Harden leave and you saw Simmons come, you just had KD and Kyrie. And without the playmaking of Harden, KD and Kyrie got exposed. So to me, I'm not looking to add 3 or 4 guys with the same exact play styles. I'm looking to add, 2 or 3 different play styles through 3 or 4 different guys through the draft. I think keeping things versatile is what's best for what you need.
So if we took Dylan Harper, what are you realistically doing with 19 and 26? To me, go ahead.
No, I'm looking at Tankathon right now, right? So you're talking landing the second overall pick. You're grabbing Harper. At 19, now you're looking at, let's just say realistically, Noah Esengwe, Thomas Sorber, Rasheer Fleming, and Will Riley. I think those are like the 4 realistic options at 19 that you would look at if you go for Harper at 2. And to me, again, it depends. Are you looking to spend? So now here's the thing. Now, who do you spend your money on? Are you going after Kuminga or are you going after Naz Reid again? Because if that's the case, in all honesty, if Fleming's available at 19, I'm taking Fleming and trying to bring in Kuminga. Because if you can now bring in Harper, Thomas, Kuminga, Fleming, and Claxton as your starting 5 next year, again, very, very interesting. Like, that is highly interesting to me because you're bringing in.
Let me get that. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, go for it. I'll explain a bit. If you're bringing in Harper at 6'6", right, who can defend on both ends of the floor, and you're bringing in Rasheer Fleming, Kuminga, and you're bringing back Claxton, of course. All three of those guys who are 6'6", 6'7", and above, all three of which are versatile defensively. Kuminga and Fleming, who can be improvements offensively from what we had last year. I think it definitely piques an interest into selecting Fleming at 19 if he's available there, and then bringing in Kuminga through, free agency. Now, again, whether that be a Nick Claxton sign-in trade or a Cam Johnson trade, I think either or is great for what you would be looking to do.
There's definitely interest, right? You're watching this series, and I think, well, is there an update on Steph's hamstring? Did we get an update on that this morning?
I would think he's cooked. I mean, the hamstrings are the one thing that you really can't play through. Like, you can play through a sprained ankle, you can play through a broken finger, but when you have something that physically feels like it's ripping underneath your ass while running for 45 minutes a night, it's
can
not
they give him a shot or something? Because if it's not ripped, if it's just strained, it's just a pain thing. Can they give him a shot to numb the pain?
I don't think so. I think he's done for at least 2 games.
Okay, well, 2 games you could survive that, right?
Somewhat. I mean, you already won game 1 somehow.
So that's what I'm saying. So you're playing with house money.
You would have to think you're probably going to go down 2-1. Now the question is, if they steal another game, right? If the Warriors somehow are up 2-1 after 3, I would say keep him out for one more game. Just because you already have the lead, you're playing well, right? Do you really?
It's going to be so hard for them to
keep him out. I know.
Get another game, right? Like, so you're looking at game 3 in Oakland, in San Francisco, right? Like, that's the game you say, let's try to win that game, because you if they go up 2-0, yeah, that changes it. But I can't see him winning game 2 in Minnesota.
Realistically, if I had to make a prediction on what game he would come back if that series went to 7, I would say 6. It would be back in Golden State, right? Yeah. 6 would be in Golden State. The first 2 in Minnesota.
6 would be in Golden State.
First 2 in Minnesota.
3, 4, and 6 are in Golden State.
3, 4 in Golden State. 5 in Minnesota. 6 in Golden State. Yeah. So, yeah, I would think game 6 is when he comes back. Realistically,
that's not great.
No, it's not. Not at all.
All right. Let's go to fears.
So you're looking at what, 6 or 5? We'll say 6.
Well, either one. Yeah, 5 or 6. Well, we can't pick 5, right? I mean, the odds of us picking 5 are like 0, right? So yeah. Let's say we get fears. Well, at 4, would you take? Well, 4, we're gonna take who's ever left between VJ and Ace.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah,
but I would have to assume. I mean, unless if Fears kills it at the combine and raises his stock, like, do you think Fears is better than Edgecombe? There's a debate to be had. I think VJ is the better 2-way player as of right now and has the upside of a 2-way star. But Fears, I mean, again, there's just guys that you watch who have killer instincts and are like, you can see while watching them through an entire college basketball season, they're like, yeah, that kid's going to be a star. That's what I got from Fears this year. And again, I compared it to, I've done this multiple times. When you look at Ja Morant at Murray State and what he was projected previously before that season and where he went in the draft the following season, which was number 2, and what he did for Murray State by bringing them to the NCAA tournament. When you look at Trae Young when he went to Oklahoma his freshman year and how mediocre that team was and what he did for Oklahoma and being able to, carry them throughout that college basketball season as well, I see the exact same thing in Fears. And again, if you're looking at Ja Morant and Trae Young, those are 2 solidified stars in this league at the point guard position. So again, history tends to repeat itself. I think Fears is that player in this year's class, similar to Ja and Trae Young, who will rise in the draft. I mean, he's already in that 6 through 10 range. I could very well see him topping Trey Johnson for that top 5 spot. So it really depends on where that pick lands.
I would hope so. So, okay, let's just go in order here. So what would fundamentally we just did Harper, so I wanted to stick with the point guards. If we got 5 or 6 or whatever, and we got Fears, if Fears was the pick, Kuminga, Reed, the rest of the picks, what would change there?
Like, you would have to think Carter Bryant needs to be your next option. Like, do you go Carter Bryant or do you go Will Riley?
Do you trade up? Do you trade Cam Johnson up?
I would do that, yeah, because I think Fears is, though he's a guy that could potentially become a star, it's also going to take a year for him to really get his body ready for the NBA. He's only like 180 pounds at 6'4", so he's a bit skinnier. But so is Ja Morant and Trae Young, and again, both stars. But if you're looking at what the team could look like around Fears, I definitely don't think Johnson helps the improvement of Fears much. He spaces the floor and helps the playmaking aspects, but again, you're looking to build around Fears at that point, not Johnson. So to me, go ahead and grab a youthful, high upside, two-way guy in Carter Bryant. Who, like I said, the stats on Bryant are not appealing in terms of college, but looking at his senior and junior season in high school, his senior year, he averaged 25, 10, and 5 with 2 blocks a game. This is a guy who has the upside as a scorer, as a shooter. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'll double check here. I think his efficiencies were very well at Arizona this year. Let me double check that. Yeah, this year he shot 46% from the field and 37.1% from 3. For a small sample size, he wasn't like the focal point of the offense. He wasn't the second option of the offense at Arizona, but on the limited shots that he was able to take to keep up with those efficiencies, that's a great sign. So for me, I think Bryant and Fears is a great duo to add to the team. And like you said, if you're trading up for Bryant, let's just say you trade up between 14 and 16, right? Does that leave you in a position to go after Fleming or Sorber at 19? And to me, I'm looking at Sorber, because I think you do need to look at that backup big man position, a guy who has the upside to become the starting big man at some point in time. I would think Sorber there at 19 is the guy that you go with.
I do think if Nick Claxton's not going to return, I do think I think that decision is made whether or not they're going to trade, because like I said, there's a limited amount of teams that you can trade Claxton to, so they've already decided in their head that they're going to make that trade. If Claxton is not going to be a part of this team, I see Thomas Sorber ending up on this team either at 19 or via a trade up to get to 21 or 22 or something like that.
Like, but realistically, realistically, if you're looking at the Nick Claxton trade potentials, right? I think the most realistic package itself is the Lakers one, but the most realistic team to me, in all honesty, is the Warriors. I think that if they lose in this round, especially because of guys like Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, guys who bring length, height, versatility, something that the Warriors really don't have, I think that's when you see the Nick Claxton sign and trade for Kuminga, because that offsets one contract for another, right? You bring in Kuminga, who can play that wing position, and that leaves you the opportunity to now draft a big, right? Or vice versa, right? You draft the big and then you look to move him in the offseason. But either way, I think adding, say you have a youthful core of Fears, Kuminga, Bryant, and Sorber, plus Cam Thomas, like that's interesting to me. That brings a lot of value, right? You have Fears as your potential star, Thomas, who's a borderline star and a high upside scorer. You have Kuminga, who has untapped potential, which hasn't been reached in Golden State, who still has two-way star potential. Carter Bryant, two-way star potential. Thomas Sorber, starting caliber big man potential. Like, there's a lot of potential on that team and things to work around if you can make that your core 5. So I'd be extremely interested in that. But I definitely think a Kuminga sign-in trade is more likely than just outright signing him. So if you're going to do that, what does Golden State prefer, Cam Johnson or Nick Claxton? In that scenario, I think they prefer Nick Claxton.
I want to move on. Let's go to VJ, because this is the one that, to me, I think it's the riskiest pick. It doesn't work with Cam Thomas. Obviously, if you bring VJ in, I guess Cam Thomas has got to go.
I think they would try and make it work for a season.
Sure.
Whether that's playing VJ at the 3 or keeping him off the bench.
If you draft VJ at 3 or 4, let's say, you got to start him. I mean, it's the first lottery pick you've had since Derek Favors.
Do you straight up trade Cam Thomas? Do you
That's
trade?
Why I don't love this pick. You have to. And
here's a Shams update.
He just
Here
played
you go.
19 games this year. His value's at an all-time low, right?
Yeah.
So
here's a Shams update for Steph, since you asked before. Sustained a grade 1 left hamstring strain and will be ruled out for Game 2 against Minnesota on Thursday. It's the first strained muscle of Curry's career, so his exact return timetable is unclear due to first rehab. That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, VJ is the toughest one to break down because, again, you have that Cam Thomas problem. My question is, now do you look to do a sign and trade with Minnesota, where you send Cam Thomas to Minnesota and you look at guys like Naz Reid or Jalen McDaniels, like somebody of that nature who's making a big contract over there that needs to get off the books? Maybe do you look at a team like Denver? Like, do they want to move off of Michael Porter Jr. for a guy like Cam Thomas? There's options out there where I think you can sign and trade Thomas to allow VJ to fully develop in year one. But in a VJ scenario, and I mean you'll probably be doing naked backflips over this, but bring back D'Lo. I don't hate it. Like, I don't hate the idea of D'Lo running the point next to VJ Edgecombe in his first season. I think that actually works out really well for both. So that's the first thing I would look at. But if you're looking at the remainder of the draft, again, Carter Bryant, Noah Sengwe, is there a world Igor Demin drops? I would love that.
To 19? I mean,
You'd
unless
probably
you want
have
to try to trade up to get it,
Yeah.
14 or 15, yeah.
Yeah, you'd likely have to
To
try and
me,
trade up.
if we get, it seems, well, could he drop to 14 and we trade up there?
Oh, he can definitely drop to 14. I mean, right here on Tankathon, he's projected 15. I believe another one that I just witnessed before, he was at 18 to the Wizards, so the pick right before us. So he's in that like 13 through 20 range right now.
If we could trade up and get and get Igor, and we draft VJ, then I think that works.
That's a very interesting front court or back court, because you're looking at a 6'9" demigod playmaker next to a 6'4" athletic freak who can play both ends of the floor, right? That's a good backcourt that cancels each other's strengths and weaknesses out, right? And they can very well play together. I mean, even Ben Seraph at 6'6" can play the point guard. Not a bad fit to put alongside a guy like VJ. Probably stay away from Traore in that scenario. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate the idea of Igor and VJ together. That would be very interesting.
And then as far as the free agency money, would you go with Kuminga?
I think in that case,
if we could sign and trade Claxton for Kuminga at that point,
I think is the move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at that point, do you look at Miles Turner?
It doesn't fit the time frame.
No. Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, the best available free agents that I personally have listed are Josh Giddey, who's likely to go back, Naz Reid, who's likely to opt out of his player option, Kuminga, who we have a real shot at, Trey Mann, Quentin Grimes. I don't mind Santi Aldama in that scenario. 7-foot stretch 4. That's really not a bad option. And Memphis is in a position where they can't really be paying players much longer unless they move off of a guy like Ja. I mean, what's that scenario there? So you have Igor, you have VJ. Maybe do we just say Will Johnson? Or I'm sorry, Will Johnson. I'm thinking Michigan cornerback. Will Riley in that scenario?
Will Riley.
So we'll go with those three.
Liam McNeely's gone at that point. He isn't list, right?
I don't think he gets past 21, 22, like around that range. He's either a Heat or a Jazz to me. Unless if Washington gets Harper or VJ, then maybe you're looking at McNeely at 18 to them. I mean, McNeely really ranges very well in between 16 through 22. I think those are like the realistic ranges. He could go as high as OKC, Orlando, or Minnesota at 15, 16, and 17, but he could go as low as Miami or Utah or Atlanta between 20 and 22. So it really just depends who's willing to take the risk on his inefficiencies and his injury history. But yeah, I would say I would love to see if there's a world Will Riley drops to 26 and you're able to get Igor and VJ. That's a home run. That's great. At that point, yeah, I think you would spend a little bit of money on multiple free agents rather than just one big name. And to me, the first one that comes to mind is Santi Aldama. I think he can start at the 4. He's 7 foot tall, so it's a little bit out of the ordinary for Sean Marks, but at 7 foot can space the floor very well, can defend very well, solid rebounder. I think that's a really good fit as your potential like big money spend of the offseason. Like 17 to 20 million a year for him isn't horrible.
I want to move to ace.
Okay.
If we get ace, if we're drafting 3, potentially 4, where would we get ace? I gotta go take a leak real quick, but
Okay.
talk about ace and then what you would do with the rest of the picks and the free agency money if we got ace.
Yeah, Ace is tough. Ace is tough because his fit next to Cam Thomas is questionable. Both high upside scorers and they both lack IQ in terms of playmaking and defensive ability. So it's a bit difficult to maybe see a long-term fit between the two. But in year one, if you're really basing it off those two as your core, I'm now looking at trying to go all in for Josh Giddey, even though Chicago likely is going to match the offer for them. I just think Giddey brings the playmaking necessary to space the floor for the two of them. Because if both of them have the ball in their hands at all times, you're really not going to see them improve their skill set. Um, and I think playing off ball for both of them would be good for their developments as well. But again, my personal take, if you're really basing it off realistic opportunities, because like I said, I think Giddey does get matched for any offer. So I think he heads back to Chicago. I think you're then looking at, I mean, if we're looking at Tankathon, I think Igor Demon is a hell of a fit next to Ace Bailey. If you can add a 6'9" point guard and a 6'10" forward, that is very, very intriguing. Santi is 7 feet, only averaging 4 rebounds a game. If you look at their roster, he doesn't need to pull down rebounds like that. I mean, they got Jaren Jackson, they have Zach Edey. Like realistically, he is in a stretch 4 play like a role. So he plays the role well, and I think that's something that if he's on the team where he gets a slightly expanded role that he could improve on. So I'm not worried about that. But for Ace, I think you're looking at Igor, you're looking at Nolan Traore, you're looking at Ben Seraph, and probably Will Riley. I think those are the main 4 that I would look at if you're looking at Ace. I think Igor is the scariest that you could put next to Ace, simply because you're then talking about adding, like I said before, a 6'9" point guard with high upside playmaking ability next to a 6'10" potential superstar who should be able to turn into a very good defensive player as well. Also from Shams, Warriors expect Steph Curry to miss at least 1 week with a grade 1 left hamstring strain. So it's probably going to be a 2-week thing.
Yeah, they gotta try to rush him back, and then does it look like James Harden? You know what I'm saying? Does it look? Yeah. Does it look like he's carrying an appendage down the field? Does it look like Robert Griffin III playing bad? You know, it's like,
oh shit.
Yeah,
I mean, you're right.
It's your season on the line. What do I do? Right? Like, do I?
Yeah. Yeah,
especially he's 36. It's not like you're gonna have like I think Golden State has a legitimate chance to win the West if he was healthy. He's not healthy. And
see, my only problem is they don't.
Yeah,
my only problem is their big man. Like, I do think you need a big man to win in the NBA, and they have Draymond Green. Like, that's not great. You know, that does not help your big man scenario. So, yeah, it's tough to really put into what you would do with Ace. Like, to me, I think your perfect fits are Igor Demon, Yaxel Lendeborg. I think those two are really good fits for what you could look at 19 and 26. Ado Fiaro, another guy that would be a really good fit.
And what are we doing? Well, you want to put shooters around him, no? I mean, it depends on what you envision.
So think about it this way, right? If you're getting Ace, to me, move Claxton. Go sign Naz Reid. You would have Naz Reid, Yaxel Lendeborg, Ace Bailey, Cam Thomas, and Igor Demon as a potential starting 5. Right? Yeah. Figure out somewhere to move Cam Johnson. Because I don't think Ace can play the 4, and I don't like Johnson at the 4 either. So
well, then you trade Cam Johnson to San Antonio or something like that to get to
get some draft capital back, some value. But yeah, I would love, because I think Yaxel is, again, if he stays in the draft, he is my second favorite upperclassman behind Rasheer Fleming. So to me, it's like a no-brainer. If he's available at 26 and 27, you fucking take him and you run. But at 6'9", Yaxel brings that physicality that Ace may lack in his first year or two because of his size. And for that reason, I think Yaxel also brings in the playmaking and rebounding aspect that he will also lack. So I think it kind of cancels one another out. It's a really good fit next to one another. And then Igor, of course, like I said, at 6'9", with the playmaking ability that he has, he's going to make the game a bit easier for guys like Cam Thomas and Ace. Getting the ball out of their hands is probably going to be the key to their development because they need to learn how to play the game outside of putting the ball on the floor and creating their own shot. Yeah. Right? They need to be able to play in a system where they can space the floor, they can find an open man, they can cut, they can find easy baskets at the rim. You know, there's got to be different ways for them to improve their games outside of, you know, dribble, shoot. Like you can't have that in two players as your potential franchise guys. So for me, I think Igor helps the development of both. And that's kind of like similar to what we've been saying the past 2 years with Cam Thomas. Go get a point guard that'll help him develop. That's why we were all very big on a guy like DeJounte Murray just 2 years ago. You know, then you brought in Dennis Schroeder, you brought in D'Lo, mediocre guys that didn't really do great. Bring in a young guy that has the playmaking ability to be a guy like Josh Giddey or Ben Simmons. And I think the playmaking aspect of Igor is very similar to both. So I would go Demon if you have the opportunity of getting Ace.
All right. Let's get to we'll get to Trey Johnson, another pick. We got to
blow up the franchise.
Yeah, we have to live in this world because it certainly is a reality. Trey Johnson
could send the Nets to Guangdong if that happens. I
would say if we pick 6 or 7, Trey Johnson is a Brooklyn Net, and statistically we have a 50-50 shot of picking 6 or 7.
Oh my God. I didn't sit here for a year hating life as a Nets fan to see Trey Johnson on the Nets, man. If that happens genuinely, there is going to be some real like contemplation on what I do moving forward. I don't know if I could do it.
You can. I did it. I saw the Jets draft Zach Wilson. I stuck with it. You know, and I'm not saying Trey Johnson is Zach Wilson. He's not. Trey Johnson can score. It's just the pick here to me. This is obviously worse than the VJ pick because he's not nearly as good as VJ.
Nowhere near versatile on the ball, the floor. Yeah.
He's a blunt object. He's like, you know, he's a 6'6".
It's Cam Thomas
with a couple inches.
Yeah.
He can handle the ball better than Cam. Like he can break the press at least at the collegiate level.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a playmaker. I mean, he can handle the ball, but he's not a distributor. He kind of handles the ball like Mikal Bridges handles the ball. It's like, okay, dribble the ball up the court. Okay.
Yeah.
Find somebody. Oh, why? I can't do all that. Right. Like, he's a scorer. He's really good with the ball in his hands. He can score. He's a 2. He can't play the 1. He can't play the 3. He's a 2. So all of us, you know, there's a conflict with your best player, who's Cam Thomas. If he's here, Cam Thomas is gone. You'd imagine. Is there any? Go ahead. I'm giving you a GM cap here, Dylan. What do we do if it's Trey Johnson?
I think you blow up the organization. No, like realistically, Kuminga doesn't fit next to Johnson. They're both the same height. Kuminga may be an inch taller, but they both do similar things. And Kuminga has untapped potential on the defensive end, and as an improved scorer that needs to be reached. I don't think you find that next to Trey Johnson.
No, Trey Johnson's an abysmal defender. He really is a 6'6".
And that's what I'm saying. Like there's no sense in the like I can't stress enough how much time I have put into watching each individual player in this draft class. I mean, there's probably about 50 guys that I've watched at least 5 hours of tape on each. Trey Johnson is the one fucking pick that I ask of you to not take. That's how bad of a fit, and that's how bad his upside on the Nets specifically could be. He is a great scorer. He has the upside to be very good on a different team, but not Brooklyn. There is no need for him. Drafting Trey Johnson sets you back 2 more years because all you're doing is drafting Cam Thomas's replacement, and you're still in the same position where Cam Thomas 2.0 is your best player. That doesn't get you anywhere, right? So to me, like I can't even see a world where he's even a thought process for Brooklyn if they have actual brain cells left in them after these past 6-7 years of stupidity that we've witnessed. So I don't even realistically know how. Like, I'm not mentally prepared, nor am I NBA GM prepared to build a rotation around Trey Johnson, because I don't even know if it's like possible. Like, realistically, if you draft Trey Johnson this year, you should be the worst team in basketball next year.
Let me kind of blueprint this. All right, I got Trey Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I trade Cam Johnson up, and I draft Igor at 15.
Okay.
So now I got a backcourt of Igor, Trey Johnson. Then I sign and trade Nick Claxton to Golden State for Kuminga. So now I got Kuminga at the 3, Trey at the 2, and Igor at the 1. And then 4 and 5. I guess I'm going with Claxton. I don't know who I'm getting there at 26, but I'm going to try to go big at 26 and 36.
Wait, didn't you say sign and trade Claxton for Kuminga?
Yeah. So I got Kuminga at the 3, Trey at the 2.
Kuminga at the 3, Trey at the 2,
Igor at the Clowney
1.
at the 4, and then at 26 and 36, I'm taking bigs at both, and I'm trying to hit on one of them.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the center from Stanford, if it's Broom, but I'm taking bigs at 4 and 5. I'm taking bigs at 26 and 36.
I gotta pull this up. This is funny. That's good. Lou, that's a hell of a...
I haven't even mentioned Zion in like 20 minutes.
He may have rewinded and started watching from earlier.
Oh, yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. Yeah, I mean, if you're telling me my rotation consists of Day'Ron Sharpe, Noah Clowney, Kuminga, Trey Johnson, and Igor, like you have no excuse not to get a top 2 pick next year. You have no excuse. Like, if AJ DeBanster or Cam Boozer is not on that team next year with that current starting 5 that you just provided us, like, genuinely, you may see me with 2 cinder blocks at the bottom of the Hudson River.
Well, let me all right. So that's the worst team in the NBA. All right.
By far.
If it gets you a top 3 pick next year, now Trey Johnson becomes a secondary scorer. You can put him with a guy like DeBanster does that make you feel any better? You know what I'm saying?
No, because I feel like I could do that with Cam Thomas. Like, think about it this way, right?
I don't know what you do with Cam Thomas at this point. Yeah.
Like if you are able to draft a guy this year who could be your secondary option, whether that's Fears, Ace, Harper, Flag, like whether they're first or second options, you roll into the season next year building a rotation that is just bad enough to probably be a bottom 5 team with great odds to land number 1. If you somehow get into the top 3 next year, you're then building a rotation around one of those 4 picks that I mentioned this year in Flag, Harper, Ace, or Fears, and putting that player next to one of either DeBanster, Peterson, Boozer, or Noah or Nate Ament. Like, that is perfection. Because then you can package Cam Thomas and somebody else for a superstar, right? And now you're in a position where you have
Cam Thomas. If I draft Trey Johnson, I give the Pelicans. We're gonna do it.
Oh,
again.
Here we go. Get ready.
The boner is out. I'm fully on Viagra. If I give him Cam Thomas 19, and then the Rockets pick in the Rockets swap in 2027, that's the trade. So now I don't have 19 or the 2027 pick or Cam Thomas, but I have Zion, Kuminga.
Say that package again. Cam
Thomas,
Rockets 2027,
19, and the Rockets 27 swap.
They say no.
What are they getting? They tried to put him on.
They could probably get Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren.
You think a team that's as close as he makes no sense for Detroit. A, because he's fat and lazy, and they have a team that's predicated on physicality. Right? Like, he just doesn't fit in their style of play.
He's physical in a McDonald's drive-thru.
No, but I can't see them.
He's physical at pounding burgers down.
With Jaden Ivey, they're on the verge. Like, they're close. I want to risk that to bring in Zion. I can't risk it. If that blows up, everything I built is gone. I can't risk. If I'm Detroit, and the same thing with Houston, I can't risk bringing him in. You know what I'm saying? I can bring in Kevin Durant. I know what I'm going to get. I can't bring him in. It's too risky.
I mean, KD's the same risk.
KD's only risk is his age. You know what you're going to get from him as a player,
You
right?
know what you're going to get. Yeah, but I feel like that's kind of the same with Zion. When he's healthy, he's giving you 25.
KD's going to play 65 games even at 37 years old. Zion
Yeah.
may play 12.
So why do you want him?
Because it's the only way out of it's the only way out of hell. This is the only I see no other way.
Is it because
out of hell.
knowing my Duke fandom and also just having the shittiest luck as a Nets fan, trading for Zion, he'd become a 30-point superstar and play 75 games, and we'd be the 9th seed and lose in the first round of the playoffs to Boston next year. Like that would be our luck. Like, I don't even want to put us in a position to risk that.
If Zion plays like a superstar, you're in good shape because you have your superstar, plus you have whoever you drafted this year. So
Are you? Because realistically, he's playing on a non-guaranteed contract next year, so maybe he takes it seriously to get a guaranteed contract, and then again turns into a fat, obese.
I'm not pretending like there's no risk involved in taking
borderline
Zion.
Health risk. Like,
that's the reason you're getting him relatively cheap compared to other players at his level. Other superstars are going to cost you way more than Zion. That's why I'm intrigued by Zion, because you can get him on the cheap. If we have an offseason that brings in Fears and Zion Williamson, that's a franchise-changing offseason.
I mean, it's probably franchise-changing for the strip clubs and McDonald's drive-through, but like, I mean, they're doing flips down Broadway. Like they're going nuts. They know that the money's coming. I don't know. I again, unfortunately, I didn't bring the Zion jersey up with me. I am a Zion fan. I absolutely love him. I'm a Duke guy. Absolutely loved him there. I would not touch Zion with a 10-foot pole. I wouldn't. I'd stay as far away as possible, whether it's him eating at a park next to me at the next table, or if it's him on a basketball court wearing black and white.
If it doesn't work, his contract's non-guaranteed. We can just move on from him and spend the money on another superstar elsewhere. I get, because you're going to trade draft capital and your best player to get him. So there's a lot of loss there.
Lou's comments, man. He's fucking killing it today. He is killing it today. Holy shit. Yeah, I mean, I want to believe in Zion, and there is no part of me that doesn't not want to see the Nets compete again very quickly. One, I don't think it's next year. Two, I don't think it's Zion. Like, you can add Zion, Fears, and hope for a top 3 pick next year. You're still not competing for at least 2 more years. And by then you have Zion at what, 29, 30 years old?
Well, it depends
how many more
on what you
injuries
mean
does
by
he have?
competing. Am I going to compete like with
competing
Boston?
To me is I'm Ricky Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last. Like, to me, competing is Eastern Conference Finals every year at worst. And we haven't done that.
Did Cleveland compete this year?
Cleveland's competing this year.
They're not going to make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Potentially. But they also held the best record in basketball.
That's what I'm saying, right? So it depends on what you mean by competing, right?
Like, well, you also have to factor in injuries. Like, when you have 3 starters hurt, it kind of depletes what you have going on.
I agree.
Right?
If
like
they're
in
healthy,
2021,
I agree.
Yeah, like in 2021, the Nets were competing. In 2022, the Nets were not competing. They were a play-in team that ended up playing Boston in the first round and lost.
Getting manhandled. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that wasn't competing, right? 2021 was competing. 2020 was somewhat competing. Like, Cleveland's competing this year, right? It's the same thing with OKC last year. They were competing. They were just young, and they didn't have the playoff experience, but they still had the best record in basketball, right? So it depends on how you want to look at it. But to me, competing is competing for Eastern Conference Finals and making it to Eastern Conference Finals minimum, right? And I'm talking fully healthy. If you're injured and you lose in the second round, all right, well, you competed until your fucking guy's legs fell off, and arguably that makes sense. But there's no room for competing in the East when you have Boston for at least 2-3 more years, when you have Cleveland for at least 2-3 more years, when you have New York for at least 2-3 more years.
Detroit's going to be there. Orlando's going to be there. Orlando is just missing one player, a scorer.
Detroit, right? Orlando, and Indiana are probably going to be the 3 teams at the top 4 of the East in the next 2-3 years, realistically, if they are able to keep the teams they have and improve on them, right? That's the only way, though. Detroit, smaller market franchise than Brooklyn, they could very well collapse at any given moment. Indiana, very small market franchise, could collapse at any given moment. Orlando.
But historically, Indiana's a very smart franchise, right? For the
Indiana's
market that they
very,
play
very
in,
smart.
they've built competitive teams for the last 30 years, right?
Well, the thing is, too, is Indiana also knows when their window is not realistic. Like, they can have semifinal teams every year, but they're just not going to win it all. So what do? They trade their best player at the peak of their career for a haul. Look at what they did with Paul George to OKC, right? Like, they do smart things, which is like why I think my Steelers are stupid, because they never decided. Like, right now, I'm all in on trading TJ Watt. I love
there's
TJ
no
Watt.
small market teams in football. In football, every team's a big market because
football's yeah. I mean, unless if you're the Carolina Panthers, then you suck.
But that's just because look, if Carolina got smart and started, and they got people would go to Carolina.
Yeah, no, but like what I'm saying is the Nets, or not even just the Nets, but the Pacers are like the opposite of what like me as a Steelers fan witness, right? Like, I'm a diehard Steelers fan. I love TJ Watt. I hope he retires a Steeler. But what's the smart thing to do? You can't sign Aaron Rodgers. You have Mason Rudolph as your starting quarterback. And for 5 years, we've been begging you to get a secondary receiver to put alongside to have a receiver duo. And what do? You don't even play George Pickens and DK Metcalf a single game together. You trade George Pickens. Just blow it up. Trade TJ Watt. Get first-round picks. Go get Arch Manning next year. Like, that's the problem, right? The Steelers don't know how to do it, but the Pacers know how to do it.
It's hard to.
It's not hard.
You can't really tank because someone's going to get killed. What are you going to like pull your offensive lineman? Someone's going to get killed.
Yes. Dude, if Tomlin disappeared today, I'd laugh. Like, I don't like Mike Tomlin as a head coach. If he disappeared from existence, I'd probably wake up tomorrow in a better place.
In basketball and football, I think it should be it's a crime in Italy. You can seriously get somebody killed. It's a very physical sport where you playing against 300-pounders who run 4.7 40s. Like, you can get someone seriously hurt.
It's ridiculous.
All right, let's just do the big men, and then I
was gonna say, I have nothing for Trey Johnson, man. That I can't do it.
I built a team where I've got Igor at the 1.
Okay.
Trey at the 2, Kuminga at the 3, Zion at the 4, and then Day'Ron at the 5.
Who's next?
All right. Who do you want to do first?
For what it's worth, it's a very solid team, right? And I think that you did a good job on it. I just personally, if I see Trey, like I want to buy the Nets rookie jersey this year. If it's Trey Johnson, I once again will not be spending a single dollar on a ticket, on a piece.
I will be the biggest Trey Johnson fan. It's just not going to work. He's from my area.
I'm going to hate him from
it's just not
day
going to work.
one. I am going to hate him from day one.
But you got to root for him. He's your guy. He's your first lottery pick as a Brooklyn Net.
And at that point, I'd be like, you know what? I could have waited another year. It's like how I feel like with the championship.
I'm the biggest Nets fan, and I'm the biggest Longhorn fan. The last 2 Nets who were Longhorns were Jared Allen, Kevin Durant. Those guys both worked out. Trey Johnson, it was like when Jackson Hayes was in the draft. That was like Jackson Hayes, the next Jared Allen. Like, no, he's not. I watched Jared Allen dominate defensively. I watched Jackson Hayes and said, I don't get why everyone likes him. And it was right about Jackson Hayes. I don't get that at all. But all right, what's big do you want to do first, Queen or Malluak?
Let's go Malluak.
All right, is he a 4 or a 5?
He is a 5.
He's a 5. So then Claxton's got to go.
Claxton does in fact have to go.
All right, so if let's say we get Malluak at 7.
I'm looking at Kuminga.
And then what do we do at 19 and 26?
I would say you play Kuminga at the 3. Johnson at the 4, Malluak at the 5. At 19, you're probably looking Traore. I would say Traore or Ben Surratt. Let's switch it up. Let's go Ben Surratt.
Okay, so point guard. Cam at the 2.
Cam at the 2, Kuminga at the 3, Johnson at the 4, Malluak at the 5.
And then at 26, you just take best player available?
Yeah, best player available. Let's just say.
Now we got, what are we doing with also Claxton?
Sign and trade for Kuminga.
Oh, that's right, Kuminga. Okay.
So you would have Malawak at the 5. You'd bring back Sharp as the backup 5, or vice versa. You can have one or the other start. You would have Johnson at the 4, Clowney at the 4. You would have Kuminga at the 3, Zaire at the 3, Thomas at the 2. Let's just say in that instance, you bring in like Nickeil Alexander-Walker at the 2, and then you bring in
Saraf or Trey.
Saraf at the 1, and then let's just say either bring back D'Lo or bring in a guy like Filan or Boogie at 26 or 27.
I could live in that world.
Right?
I could live in that world.
That's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, I would quite literally rather die in a fire than see Cam Johnson on this team next year. Like, if there's all-time hate list of a single Nets player, it's got to be Cam Johnson. I don't like the guy whatsoever. The attitude, the telling fans how to cheer, and ruining my one and only opportunity at potentially looking at a number 1 overall pick. For all those 3 reasons, I hope nothing but the worst for him in terms of the Brooklyn Nets tenure.
You hated Cam Johnson long before he made the comments about how to cheer for the Nets.
Well, based on his performance of fisting my team out of a top 3 pick, yes, which I included in there. Like, him ruining draft position and his comments towards fans. I hope nothing but the worst for him.
He picked a hell of a time to have a career
Brooklyn.
best season. Like, he really picked a hell of a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he's a scumbag.
The
one player that I'll talk poorly of. Sorry, I know there's probably some people watching. I don't like him. I don't respect him.
Yeah. So if we got Malawak, I could live in that world. Like, that's not a bad pick. If we have
it's really not.
Cam Johnson, I can Kuminga. I can start to live in this world. I can live.
Yeah,
100%. I can live with that pick.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Malawak, right, the least you're getting from him is a slightly better Mark Williams. He's the same exact player as Mark Williams. Dominant paint presence, incredible rim protector, slightly lesser rebounder, but that could come with size and weight gain. But he can space the floor like Mark Williams can't, and he's highly efficient. Like, this is a hybrid Mark Williams at heart. Like, this is to a T. The ceiling on him, you really can't come up with a ceiling. The kid's been playing basketball for 2.5 years. At 16 is when he started playing basketball. Joel Embiid
that's how Hakeem Olajuwon stuff right there. That's wild. Yeah.
I was going to say, Joel Embiid started playing basketball at 14, and he has won an MVP, and he is one of the best scoring big men of all time, right? Malawak has that upside. Like, he could be one of the most dominant centers to play the game, and has that like Hakeem upside with Mark Williams floor, which is a starting big man in this league at minimum. So I think that the upside on him is through the roof. If you get him, if Fears is off the board and you go Malawak, I don't hate it.
I can definitely live in this world.
If Fears is on the board and you go Malawak, I don't hate it, but I'm also a bit worried to see how that plays out, because I think Fears has the higher floor, meaning that he's going to be a more consistent player than Malawak could be. Like Malawak to me is as risky as a pick as Ace Bailey, because the floor of them is very, very low.
To me, Ace Bailey, the floor is not low on Bailey, and I don't think the floor.
I think you're looking at Michael Porter Jr. at worse.
Okay, to me,
but for a top 3 pick, you know what I mean?
To me, Ace Bailey is going to be good. He's going to be really good. The only question is when. It might not be year 1 or 2 or 3. It might not be till year 4. But like, I always make I'm not saying he's Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady is one of the best players I've ever seen with my own eyes, right? But like, McGrady didn't crack the rotation as a rookie. His second year, he kind of the back end of the rotation guy. The third year, he's 6th man of the year, or I think second in voting. And then it wasn't until his 4th year in Orlando, he was like, but you knew it was coming. Like, you could see the development each year. To me, Ace Bailey is very, very raw. But as long as he's not Zion, as long as he's not a lazy piece of crap, right? Like, he's going to be a star. It's just, it might not be year 1 or 2. It might be a longer process than.
And that's where I kind of agree with Lou, though, right? If you're looking at MPJ on the Nets and you have a first and second option, hell yeah, that's a great pick. But when you're looking at that as your franchise-changing piece to turn out to be Michael Porter Jr., that's a bit underwhelming. That again can push your rebuild back like 2 years and now force you in a position to accelerate it by.
But you should like
going
that
all in.
because look, I love Ace. I don't think anyone thinks
Love
Ace Bailey is
Ace.
going to be rookie. I don't think he's going to be rookie of the year this year.
No, probably
Right?
not.
Yeah. So I mean that puts us in position to get one of the guys next year. If he really struggles, and I mean struggle, he's going to flash. He's going to have some moments. He's going to have some games, right? But throughout the course of the season, he's going to struggle, and he's going to play 35 minutes a game because he has to. We're going to struggle. We're going to lose games, and that puts us in position now. Put Ace Bailey this year with Debanza or Boozer next year.
I mean, if you get Ace, your best fit is Boozer or Darren Peterson because Darren Peterson is a point guard, right? He's a 6'5", 6'6" hybrid point guard. He is probably the Wemby of point guards in terms of a point guard that we've never seen before. At 6'5", 6'6", he's got the body of a small forward. He's got the athleticism of a Zach LaVine or a Michael Jordan, however you want to put it. And he's also got the shooting abilities of a guy like James Harden. It is ridiculous what Darren Peterson is as an all-around player. He's disgusting.
Where does he go in the draft next year? 3?
1 or 2. 1 or 2.
Well, I have him ahead of Debanza, so it's not one.
As of right now, he is ranked over Debanza. He is officially the #1 player in the country. He topped him a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, he is fucking absurd. Like if you watch the Debanza Peterson game where they played against one another, Peterson killed him. Peterson went for
on YouTube.
Yeah, Peterson went for 54, I believe. He went for 54 in the game.
God dang.
Yeah.
God dang.
Yeah. Like he's a dog, dude. Like that guy he is going to be great. So if you get Ace, you either want to add an all-around point guard like Peterson, or you want to add the forward piece that, like, if you get Ace and Boozer, you're kind of looking at Paolo and Franz, to me, like similar forward potential star duo, but you're still a point guard away, right? So at that point, you're now looking at, okay,
but we're not. We just bring D'Lo back and we're all set. We're good to go. We're good. We got D'Lo. No, that's obviously a joke. I gotta close this out like next 5 minutes. Okay. I want to Queen.
Yeah, Queen's interesting, dude, because he doesn't have any form of defensive ability. Like, he is very, very lackadaisical on defense, but his offense is absurd. Like, I haven't seen a center that can put the ball on the floor the way that he does in a very long time. He has a ball handling ability, a shot creation ability that more so looks like a 4 than a 5.
So here's what I want to ask you. If we draft him, do we then have to put him next to Fleming to cover up do we have to draft Fleming to cover up the defensive?
I would more so you put him next to Claxton and keep Claxton. I think that could be like your big man duo.
Yeah, I get it. I just don't want to keep Claxton. I know. I get what you're saying.
And the problem is, right?
But like, seriously, who's covering the bigs? Like, who's covering?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you have your Jarrett Allen or your Evan Mobley, a guy who can guard the perimeter and can guard the big. You have Nick Claxton, who gets dominated by Jalen Duren and Bismack Biyombo, but can guard the perimeter pretty good. Like, it contradicts itself. Malawak would probably be the best fit next to Claxton because you could probably play like on the rotation when they put up the graphic, like, oh, you're starting 5 today. It would probably be Malawak at the 4, but realistically, he's guarding the 5s. Right. So for Queen and Claxton together, it's interesting. It provides another body, which is also a thing I think Claxton needs help with. If you can just put another body in the paint, I think that his defense kind of helps because Claxton historically has played better when he's in the help coverage and blocking a shot from a defender who's in the paint that he's not specifically guarding, right? He kind of shifts over and gets the block. So I think with Queen in the paint with him, that could definitely help out with that. But yeah, the two are definitely not like Claxton is a good defender. I'm not going to say that he's great. He's definitely not what he was 2 years ago.
But you got an obvious flaw. That's you can't guard bigs, right?
Yeah,
like, I mean,
it's a problem.
Yeah,
it's a problem. You can't be a big that can't guard a big. Like, develop a shot or leave. Like, it just, there's really no in between for Claxton. So, but yeah, I think with Queen, you would put him at the 4 next to Claxton for the first year. See how it works out. I like the idea of probably bringing back Cam Thomas. I mean, you're kind of doing that in every scenario. Do you bring in Igor or Traore? I think that's kind of where I'm in question. Carter Bryant would be a sick fit next to those guys. Will Riley, another guy that would be a really good fit next to those guys. I don't see Kuminga in that scenario. Yeah, it depends. I would like to see one of Igor, Traore, or Carter Bryant next to Thomas, Queen, and Claxton. That's what I would go with.
So okay, so let's say Igor, because I prefer that over Troy. So
Okay.
Igor, Cam Thomas.
Igor, Cam Thomas. You probably bring back Cam Johnson.
So we're bringing back Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
yeah, I'm all the way. I'm all
welcome
the way
to the Sean Marks era, my friend.
Yeah, I'm all the way out on so for me,
don't capitalize on value for vets and stay at 30 wins so you can't get a top 3 pick next year. That is the Sean Marks way.
I'm looking at there's 3 guys I don't want. That's Trey, that's VJ, and that's Queen now. I don't see I'm good with the other 5, but Trey, VJ, and Queens, I'm out on them. Your thoughts on that? Who you out on and who you're okay with?
Like I've said, I think the only 4 picks in this year's draft that I would be jumping through the roof for are Flag, Harper, Fears, and Ace, and it's in that order. The only 2 other players that I would be remotely okay with, you're not going to see me go crazy, you're not going to see me freak out and get angry, is probably Malawak and maybe Edgecombe or Conchinepple. Like those 3 guys are like the only other 3 that I'm like, all right.
What is the upside on Conchinepple? Like
he is, dude, this is Klay Thompson 2.0. Like this is the modern day Klay Thompson. A bit more athletic, even better defensively, the most efficient 3-point shooter and volume 3-point shooter in this year's draft class. Like he looks like a goofy, like just he looks goofy. He doesn't look like an NBA player, but he can give you 18 plus a night. I can guarantee that. Like he's going to be efficient from 3. He has a playmaking aspect to his game. He has a very solid defensive aspect to his game. He can guard the perimeter very well. He's 6'7". He can create his own shot. He's not like Klay Thompson who has to primarily. Yeah, like Chris Middleton, Klay Thompson like player. I could see that. And to me, that's your second, third option. And if you like, let's just say you really mess up this draft and you get the 7th pick, the Spurs are at 8, Fears is gone, Malawak is gone. Go Knepel, because that puts you in a position to tank this year, and I'm cool with that. Like if Knepel is your second or third option, right? Let's just say you keep Thomas. You have Thomas as your second option. You have Knepel as your third. You're either getting Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, or DeBansta as your first option. I'm cool with that.
If this was available at 6 and Jeremiah Fears was gone and VJ was gone, and or 7, you think
if you're at 7 and Fears and Malawak are off the board, because VJ is definitely going to be gone. But if Fears and Malawak are gone, I would probably take Knepel.
So Knepel, but just Sean Marks, is this Sean Marks takes Knepel over Trey Johnson?
I wish this guy's name. I wish this guy's name. I wish this guy's name never existed. I mean, listen, realistically, the top 6 should be in no specific order outside of the top 2: Flag, Harper, Ace, VJ, Trey Johnson, Fears. Like that to me is the top 6, right? Malawak and Johnson are the only interchangeable pieces in that top 6 for me. At that point, I'm hoping the Nets get 8. Don't even give us the opportunity to draft Trey Johnson. Please leave him off my team. Out of all 9 prospects in the top of the board, right? Trey Johnson is the one that I will likely hurl myself outside of the window that I'm looking at right now.
So we already know how this is going to go.
We're getting Trey Johnson, and then somehow, some way, we'll draft Joan Beringer at 19, and I will literally quit at the game of life. At that point, I'd have to. It's over. My life as a Nets fan would be done.
Get your number 20 jerseys ready. We could it's just adding a 0. It's just because you already got your Cam Johnson jersey. Now you just need to put a 0 next to the 2.
I'll put it this way: if the Nets draft Trey Johnson this year, and you can clip this, I will buy a Cam Johnson jersey.
We're gonna,
clip it, save it. if the Nets draft Trey Johnson, I will go out of my way to buy a Cam Johnson jersey.
And you got to wear it. Open
And
night.
I will wear it.
You got to wear the Cam Johnson jersey.
I will wear it. I will wear it.
All right. I got to wrap this up. Let's hope it's not Trey Johnson. I think they're picking 2, so this conversation is irrelevant. I think they're getting Dylan Harper at 2. That's my inkling. I've said that all season long. That's just what I think. It's Derrick Rose to Chicago, LeBron James to Cleveland, Wemby to San Antonio. These things keep happening over and over again. It's going to be Dylan Harper to the Nets.
Let's see. One lottery simulation on Tankathon. And the Nets land 7. All right.
All right.
I thought I was doing something cool there.
That's 4 times in a row we've gotten 7. All right.
I know. It's ridiculous. Second spin, we got 3. Third spin, we got 3. All right. We'll see.
All right. May 7th, 2025. Oh, we'll be back
Monday for lottery night.
Monday for lottery.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. From Texas to the world. We're starting out at 6:30?
6:30, yeah, because the lottery's at 7. We'll watch the lottery. Maybe we'll do a lottery draft rather than a full first-round draft. Unless if you want to do a full first-round draft that same night too, we could. Depends on what time frames we got going for each other. But yeah, I would definitely love to break down the potential lottery picks at least, since these will be the newest, available picks that we see.
We'll do that.
So yeah, let's do it.
All right. See you guys Monday at 6. You said
6:30. Yeah, we'll go 30 minutes before you. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. The time has come. I mean, our destiny is going to be determined here.
5 days.
That's at 10. I don't think they can pick worse than 9, right?
It can't be worse than 9.
All right. So you got that, Lou. It can't be 10. They're going to get one of the 9 names we've mentioned.
God.
All right, guys. From Texas to the world, thank y'all, and God bless.
Later.